Well, my word of the week is opposite. No, it's not. That was your word of the week.
I was going to say, that's a coincidence, isn't it? Because that's mine.
I've been very diligent and making notes today, because you know how I often have to go back to you and say, what was your word of the week? No, my word of the week is... Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. So how's your week been then, Judith?
Well, sunny, which is good, always good. I'm having a bit of a spring clean week, Nicola, is what I'm doing, actually, and it's only Thursday, so, and we had a bank holiday on Monday, so I've got a few more days to go. I've been doing things like, I haven't actually done it yet, but I'm going to do my accounts either tomorrow or Saturday. I've done the filing, I've done a lot of personal admin, I've reviewed the web copy on every single page of my website, I've refreshed my testimonials. I had quite a lot unappealing to-do list, you know what I mean, chores, not sort of client work, which is more fun to me, but business admin, business and personal admin, and I just found I don't know what it would be, the inclination to do some of them this week. And the thing is, if you start with one, it makes you feel good and it encourages you to do more. Do you know that feeling?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, I'm quite a tidy person on a day-to-day basis, but I do have little pockets of untidiness, i.e. on top of my printer where all my papers that relate to things to do tend to pile up.
Yeah.
And under my computer I've got a little stash of things that I have to regularly tidy out because they make me feel stressed otherwise after a while. But the sunshine's throwing up all the cobwebs in my house and all the sticky fingerprints on the windows and things like that.
Well, after 2008 to 2015, what's that? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 7 years, my cleaning lady quit without notice last week.
Oh my God.
I know, it was really rather upsetting, and because we had a really nice routine going, and she knew me really well and I knew her really well. So my place hasn't been cleaned in the last week and I need to find somebody to take care of that. But there's a stonking new app I'm going to use for that, which you can, order online and pay and the person turns up.
Oh, it's not that girl in Australia, that fast growth startup that's taking the world by storm, is it?
I don't know. The one I'm proposing to use is called Bizby, Bizzby.
Oh, no, I don't think it's the same one, but there's...
I'll let you know how I get on. I think it's actually only London-based, I'm not sure.
But don't you own a cleaning company or 25?
Yes, but I do, but I'm not in my own area.
Oh.
And I asked my business partner, and she said she had nobody to help me right now. And the telephone, because my other lady's been with me for so long, the telephone number I have for the couple of ladies that often fill in for her is rather ancient now. So I'm going to start over. I'm going to go modern. I'm going to do it on an app. Well,
you wait till you hear about who or what's impressed me then.
Okay. Tell me about your week first.
Yeah, I will. Well, obviously it's been a weird week because I was supposed to be in Malta for the week and I'm home with barely any appointments in the diary. Although
it's lovely, yes. The Easter factor.
Yeah, and I've still not been feeling brilliant. So as you know, my spluttering in the last episode will testify, but I've been feeling better this week. So I've just been trying to bring everything up to scratch in terms of because the business is growing like crazy, and I want to put systems in place. Well, I'm not the girl for that. So Sarah has relented, and she is now extracting systems out of my head and imposing them into our software. The jury's still out on Trello, absolutely loving Slack, and found some good stuff that I'll tell you about later on in the show.
Okay.
But I've also taken bitten the bullet on something that I really didn't want to do, which was to hire someone to hook up my new membership site to. Where do I go with this? Right. Okay. So I've swapped to using a more user-friendly membership site software.
Can you remind us what it was called?
It's called Zenforo.
Yes. Okay.
Xenforo. And it's
say it again. Sorry, darling, I spoke over you. Say it again.
Xenforo.
Okay.
It looks more old-fashioned than Optimize, Press and Wishlist, which is what I was using, but it's a better user experience, as I discovered when I joined someone else's membership site and realised they had it. But it does integrate with PayPal quite simply if you've only got one membership level. So, if people stop paying, they get locked out. But when you've got 3 membership levels like me and you want it to integrate with an emailing list service like Aweber or Infusionsoft, it gets a little bit more complex because they use something called an API, which is, some special key or something.
Yeah.
And you have to hire someone who knows not only the Zenforo API, but the Nanocast API, which is the sort of gateway I'm going to be using to hook it up to my Infusionsoft, and also hook it, make sure it's got an affiliate program, and that I can offer different levels. So I could offer, say, a $1 trial for 90 days, 30 days, that kind of thing. So Nanocast is the bit of software that lets you do all that attached to your membership site, and it will turn your membership site levels on and off depending on what people are paying for. And that is quite a complex thing. I was quite convinced I could find someone on Elance to do it, but everyone who said, oh yes, I can do it, hasn't then been able to do it. So the expensive person, who I know can definitely do it because he did this other person's whose site I belong to, he went to Australia, and I thought I'd be able to find someone by the time he came back, and I haven't. So I've now just bitten the bullet to pay him to do it, which was a bit painful. But he is highly recommended, and it's a one-off payment, and it will make my membership site run properly forever, which sort of leads into something I want to talk about in Word of the Week this week. So we'll continue that discussion later.
Okay, that sounds interesting because that's something I want to do as well, is to get my 2 coaching groups into a membership site.
Yeah, and it's brilliant, this thing, because it's got all sorts of lovely things. So for example, when they go in new, they can see what new posts there are across all the categories. You can put your training in there. So if you've got video trainings, you just put them in one of the forums, and you can turn the access to that on and off. And people get badges and things for the more often they interact, which is gamification. And it really makes it much, much nicer for people to use.
And is it like a social networking site? So you've got profiles of the members and things?
Yes, it is. It looks like an old-fashioned forum, but it's very, very up to date in its functionality. And you can get it designed to be very customised to your brand. I haven't bothered with that yet, but I will do eventually.
No. And when he's finished, do you think you'll be able to use it easily? And do you think somebody slightly less able than you would be able to?
Oh, definitely, yes. That is the tricky bit, is hooking it all up, actually using it. I mean, I actually managed to install it myself and set up the different levels and things. So, it's quite logical.
Maybe later, after the podcast, you'll show me round, will you? Let me see what it looks like.
I'll give you a walk around, yes.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so what's fueled your fire then, Nicola?
Did we do your week? Yes, we did, didn't we? What's fueled my fire? Oh my God, Judith, what has fueled my fire? We were so into wealth creation for so long.
Yes.
And I read every single book on the planet, obviously running the money gym, I had to. Well, I've had a book recommended on my wish list for a while, which got bought randomly by Phoebe for a present. I can't remember what it was, Christmas or something. And it's called, on Mother's Day, The Millionaire Fast Lane. Crack the code to wealth and live rich for a lifetime. So I wasn't very, looking forward to this, not least because the writing's quite small. But I started reading it and it had me absolutely gripped. It is completely different to every other wealth creation book I've ever read.
Oh, good.
Completely. I mean, it takes a completely different concept, which is fast wealth, and it talks about the slow lane, talks about the sidewalk, which is, what normal people get told about wealth creation. The sidewalk, the medium lane, and the fast lane. That's it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it echoes in a way what Rich Dad's Guide to Investment says, which is that there are different levels of investor. There, the sophisticated investor down to the non-sophisticated investor. The non-sophisticated investor gets really rubbish advice from people who don't know what they're talking about. And the most sophisticated investor is one who invests in their own business. But he goes in to analyse very easy. It's easy to read. It's not complicated, but he's got some really good concepts. And he says how the most sophisticated fast lane to wealth is to create a company that is going to be fast growing and that you can sell within 2 or 3 years. And then you put that chunk of cash you've generated into the traditional methods of holding your cash safe. And when you think about it, that's what all the really, really wealthy people, most of them have done, like Bill Gates and people like that. They've created a company, built it fast, sold it for lots of money, and then gone on to secure their wealth in property and investment vehicles that give a good return, but you can only get into with large chunks of money. And it really has a very compelling argument for why compounding, which is, we all know, is the eighth wonder of the world, but it's the eighth wonder of the world that doesn't work for people unless they've got big chunks of cash. It doesn't work for little money because it takes so long.
Yeah.
And I just found the whole book a really refreshing new take on wealth creation. And I highly recommend it to anyone. It's M.J. DeMarco. And as I say, apart from the fact that the writing's a bit small, but you could get over that with a Kindle, it's a really, really good read. And change my...
Well, I shall put it on my wish list and catch up with you at some point and compare notes.
Yeah, very good. That's fueled my fire. What about you?
There's one of my earliest favourite personal development books is called Simple Abundance, A Daybook of Comfort and Joy by Sarah Van Brannock. Is how you pronounce it. It's not spelt like that. Brethnack is how it's spelled. It's a little bit dated now. I think it was sort of the mid-90s when I read it, but I'm revisiting it on my Kindle this year. And one of my clients or colleagues, one of our colleagues' clients, Jan Marchant, who you'll remember, very nice,
yes,
kind, silver-haired lady, big Michael Neal fan. So I always bump into her at Michael Neal type gigs. She knew I was revisiting this book this year. It's one of those books that you read a page a day, and she sent me the companion book that goes with it, which she'd bought by mistake, which is called The Simple Abundance Journal of Gratitude, where you have to, it says, it's got a little ribbon in it, and it says, today's date, and there are five lines for you to write down 5 things you're grateful about. And when I was doing it yesterday, I was also looking at an inspirational video on YouTube about gratitude, and we've talked about gratitude before, and what I suddenly realised was I'm very, very grateful for each and every one of my clients now, past, present and future. And the ones that I work with now, people who are my current clients, I always subscribe to their blogs and make them my special friends on Facebook. So I never miss their output, and I follow their posts and their updates, and I cross-reference that with their weekly check-ins and their monthly phone calls, so I can keep an eye on their emotional temperature all the time, and I know what they're doing, and I know what they're saying, and I know what their output is, and I know what their lives look like, and their friends and their families, and what they're doing. And we've all got very much in common, but what I got a real sense yesterday of being able to appreciate their uniqueness. We're all individuals. We've got a lot in common, and we're all on this journey to create a business that and that we love. But we also come in an infinite variety of uniqueness, if you know what I mean. So I just got this very strong sense yesterday of being grateful, not for my clients as a lump, but for each one individually. That's what fueled my fire yesterday, was just, how lovely, what a lovely little multi-faceted jewel thing a client is, another human being that I'm privileged to work with.
Oh, I just had a lovely vision of those skulls that were encrusted with diamonds.
Yes, who made those?
Oh,
was it Damien Hirst? It's not a Damien Hirst, is it?
Yeah, it was Damien Hirst who made the most valuable one. But
yeah.
And then also, weren't you showing some lovely things on Facebook yesterday? There's stones with all the wonderful little dots on.
Was that me? I might have. I certainly saw that go around. I love colour. I'm very attracted to anything colourful on Facebook, I notice. And one of my clients is a very, very colourful person who does colourful artwork, and I always share her artwork when she does it. And I think, I love the idea of people living colourful lives. And I thought you were going to say a kaleidoscope, because that's the sort of image that was in my mind, of every time you twist it, it's different. So it's still a colourful pattern. We're all a colourful pattern, but our colourful pattern is unique. And I think that's, it's quite it's obvious, but it's a good reminder, I think.
It's a blog post right there, isn't there, with a picture of a kaleidoscope? Because a kaleidoscope is perfect, because it's exactly the combination of the two things I was thinking of, which is the coloured stones and the diamonds.
Well, okay, so you're going to write it, or shall I write it?
No, you're going to write it. I don't.
Okay, I'll write it later today, Nicola. There's my promise to you.
I'm not doing blogging at the moment, although I want to.
I'll write it later today.
Yeah, good stuff. That's really nice. And yes, it is. I mean, it's so random, isn't it? And you never know what a client's going to say or introduce you to, or who they're going to introduce you to. It's just amazing. I love that randomness of life at the moment.
Yes, so do I. Yes, and somebody yesterday used the word, or I think I used the word contrary, and that comes on to my word of the week later, which is, people, you can never really, people never. But they sort of do. They sort of behave in expected ways, but they also behave in unexpected ways as well. People can be contrary. And somebody commented and said, yeah, isn't that wonderful?
A word from our sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by clicksandleads.com. Clicksandleads.com believe in affordable traffic and leads for everyone. They'll set up your Facebook ad campaign, page likes, leads or remarketing, then they'll manage it for you. They'll even split test your ads and audiences to find the best performing ones. Game-changing marketing from clicksandleads.com. Nice. So what's our client challenge of the week then?
Well, it came in. I'm not quite sure how it came in. You sent me a copy of it by email. Somebody submitted it, did they, on our website, I think, from a lady called Leona, although she's got two N's, so she could be called Leona. Anyway, she said, I've been hearing about niches. I was wondering if you could explain it. So client challenge of the week is, why niche? What's a niche and why should we have one?
Well, also known as niche. If you're
yes, a niche. If you're listening in America, it's a niche. Of course it is, yes.
And it's actually my nickname in the family, Niche, which is quite funny.
Oh, yes, that is interesting. Yeah.
So, I mean, it originally started when we were coaches and we trained as life coaches, and I very swiftly realised I didn't want to be a life coach. I wanted to be a coach who taught and shared the things I was interested in. And then, that was quite radical stuff then, but it was Chris Barrow actually that told me to pick a niche and stick to it, even if it changed. And he was quite right, because people need to get their heads around you somehow, or they need to get a little handle on you, or they can't recommend you to other people or talk about you. And so we niched quite early on, didn't we, you and I as coaches? And
Yes. I think I always quote that book that we were all in, you, me, Chris Barrow, Guy, I can't remember who else it was, from Hannah McNamara, talking about, I think it was about niching for coaches. And funnily enough, we all said the opposite, which is we allowed our niche to find us. But I think that is the interesting thing, is that you're right, it did start with coaching, but now I think it applies to a lot of small businesses, doesn't it? It's about your ideal client and how you distinguish yourself from every other person in the world who does what you do, I think. And I've written down, it helps the world find you, which is what you've just said, but it also helps you find your tribe or audience.
Yeah, and last year when I was coming out of working with Neil and then wondering what I was going to do, I had Cairncross Media, which we know was a digital marketing agency. And yes, I got some clients from that, but it was only really that I decided to niche to social media pay-per-click, specifically Facebook, that I really started to get some traction at Christmas when I bought clicks and leads, because that summed up what I was going to do for clients, get them clicks and get them leads. And that was it. But specifically through Facebook ads. And I've had to really resist the temptation to put on my marketing materials social media pay-per-click, which probably most people won't know what it is, or to add Twitter and Instagram, which are the next two big ones. Twitter's very Facebook. So, I could do Twitter advertising for people, although not many people are getting traction with it yet. So it's quite in its infancy. But just by saying Facebook ads, and that's it, the word has spread to people. I mean, I've got some really stonking clients now, and I'm getting recommended, by some really stonking people. And I think it's because they say clicks and leads. She specialises in Facebook ads.
Yes.
Getting known for it in the UK.
Yes, and actually, do you remember the thing that people don't want to do at the beginning when they're niching is pick something that feels too small and too specific because they think it excludes everybody else. But what you're demonstrating is that's a good reason to do it.
Yeah, and I've just done a launch for one of my clients. A series of 4 videos, and he's created all the content, but I've put together the tech, and I that wasn't in my brief as being a Facebook ads person, but because he's such a nice person and he needed help, and I could do it quicker than he could outsource it. I did it, but it wasn't something I'm going to advertise. I do for people, so the marketing is really clear and focused. It's clicks and leads from Facebook ads. Boom.
So going back to Leona and her thing about niches. Hang on a second, excuse me. I did some research yesterday online. Why niche? What's a niche? And all I could find was hot air, actually. That stuff that people teach people at the beginning of a business, which is like sort of business startup 101. Yeah. It's just riddled with cliche, really, isn't it? And it's quite annoying that almost every online course you go on, you've got to go back to the beginning. If, of course, you're in Leona's place and you're starting at the beginning anyway, I think that's all right. But honestly, I thought it was just so much hot air. And it reminded me of that nice Venn diagram I shared in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago, which is, it's got 4 circles, which is quite unusual for a Venn diagram. Usually they have 3, don't they? And they all overlap. And so the questions Leona wants to be asking herself is, what do you want to be known for? What do you love doing? What are you great at? What does the world need? What will the world pay you for? And it's a sort of combination of your passion, your mission, your profession, your vocation, your sweet spot in the middle, your purpose or your purpose right now, your purpose. Maybe everything you've ever done, Nicola, is, well, obviously, not just you, but the whole world, everything you've ever done has led up to the thing that you're doing right now. And you found an interest in it first before you decided to make a business out of it. Now, where you were fortunate was the world needs it, you're great at it, you'll love it, and you're paid for it. So it is a sweet spot, isn't it?
It's more than that. It's actually a vehicle to the thing that I've been leading up to all my life, which is building a proper business. Yeah. And I've shied away from that so often because of the responsibility angle and the building a team and all that stuff. But now there are people showing the way, like Dan Norris of 7 Day Startup and WP Curve, that you can build a big business and work virtually. I'm now inspired to do that, and the clicks and leads is just the sweet spot thing that's going to carry me through to my ultimate thing that I'm on the planet to do, which is to build a business. And
no, but
it's mundane, doesn't it? I'm here to build.
No, I don't think it does. You've been, how many years are you into this? A couple of decades, aren't you? I think from Leona's question, she's in year 1, don't you? So if you're right at the beginning, what's the best tip about niching? Can you wind back the years and remember where you were?
There's some good stuff in the Millionaire Fastlane about this, actually, about how to. He's got a good tick list on how to choose a business that will put you in the fast lane. Okay. And there's some good stuff in there about focus and picking how to pick a niche that not only needs you. It's a starving crowd again, isn't it, Robbie?
Yes, it is. I was going to say, what's that other book called? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can find a niche that has a starving crowd where they can afford your solution, that is so key, because so many people pick niches for their passion. And actually, MJ DeMarco's point is that you can choose a business that is a vehicle to your fast lane that doesn't necessarily have to be your passion, but it's a way to take you to a place where you can spend the rest of your life indulging your passion once you nice. sold it and built all that stuff. So crucial for marketing, I think, is the answer. A niche is crucial for marketing, but do pick a niche where they can afford the solution to afford your solution to their problem.
And it's the opposite, really, of trying to be all things to all people, isn't it? It's like a coat hook. People know where they're supposed to put their coat. You see a coat hook, hang your coat on it. It's a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah, and think about Chris Barrow. He's a great example because he's very much in my mind at the moment because I've had a friend who needed dental implants up in Shrewsbury, and of course I went straight to Chris. He chose dentists because he picked that as a niche. He'd identified it as a niche where they had a burning problem, i.e. they were rubbish at marketing, and they had enough money, and they were already spending on a perceived solution, i.e. marketing, but they weren't doing it very well. And he didn't stop me signing up as his client, his coaching client. I sat in rooms full of dentists for 2 years. But it does just give you a very good focus for your marketing. And
And also, he's never changed it. He's been in it for 15 years, I would say, dentists.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they either love him or hate him, but he's the Marmite for dentists.
I think he's Marmite. I think he's Marmite generally, which I think is rather a good thing, and makes the point again, doesn't it? Be Marmite.
Yeah, be Marmite. Not everyone will love you, but the ones who do love you will become raving fans. I think that's the thing. But only if they can get a handle on who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, so it's to help the world find you, Leona, and distinguish you from everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and your niche is interesting because it's a business coach. You could argue that's quite wide, but you especially focus on small business startups who largely work from home.
They don't necessarily need to be startups, but I think I like the idea very much because that's what you do and what I do and what I know really well. I mean, I've had offices over the years, but the majority of my career I've spent working at home alone. And so I know that place very well, and I know how to build a business from that place.
Yeah. And I think everyone who knows you.
So they tend to be newish. Well, actually, not all of them are new. Sometimes how many years we can go round and round and round this. We just said, it took you, I don't know, how long, 15 years to find the thing that you feel is going to be the breakthrough thing. Doesn't mean you haven't earned a cracking living in the intervening years, but, it takes a while to find your thing. So they're not necessarily startups. They might be young businesses, maybe 2 or 3 years into it. But, we know that's not very far into it, actually.
No, it isn't. And they're only just starting to get the sense that they're of their focus, perhaps.
Oh, and actually, going to the niche point, they're changing their minds about what that is. They haven't found their dentists yet, necessarily.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's right, because I had Artist Manager first, didn't I, which was my music industry startup, and then I went to the Money Gym, which I was convinced was the one, and now I just feel perhaps that I found the next thing, and it's got to be that Venn diagram of yours. Which blog post was it on? Because I think it's really important people go and look at that.
It was in my newsletter. What I'll do is I'll send you a copy of it because we can put it on the show notes, can't we?
Yes, we can. And the thing, I have a Venn diagram somewhere that's 3 things. It's what you love, what people will pay for, and what you're good at. And yeah. I had that as my desktop thing when I was trying to, when we come out the Money Gym and I was trying to work out what to do next. Because it's really, really important not to get sucked into doing something you could do just because you can. Because if you don't love it, if you don't love the thing, then you're not going to do it, and you're not going to do it very well, even if you do it.
So you've just contradicted what you told us MJ DeMarco said we should do. He said that we should spend 3 years doing something we don't necessarily love to bits in order to be able to spend the rest of our lives doing anything we like.
I think
which I think
there's
I think most people do that early in their careers anyway, don't they? So.
Yeah, there's a difference in what he's saying and what I'm saying. In that I'm saying, in my business, the actual doing the Facebook ads is the bit I love. I don't like any of the rest of it, which is why I'm building a team. But he says, what he's saying is, do the bits that you enjoy doing within a business that isn't necessarily your passion in life and why you want to become wealthy.
Yeah.
So I'm building a business, and within that business, the Facebook ads is the thing, but the building the business is the thing that will then drive. Say for example, like my lifetime goal was to start a sole record label, and publishing company, management company. That could be my passion, couldn't it? Well, you're never going to make money doing that. So the Facebook ads agency could be the vehicle that I could build fast, doing something I love within it. So I'm happy and doing the work. But within 2 or 3 years, it could be sold, and then I could put the money into the money sink that would be a sole record label.
Yeah.
Or you could go off and, like Margaret Kim, who is someone I met on the cruise. I don't know if you remember, she was the one whose son played a game and she knew my sister. It was a long, complicated story of people meeting in virtual life. Her passion is she supports an orphanage in Peru where girls who've been abused or, raped at home or whatever, can come and have their babies and get an education and live safely and build a life for themselves. And she's a multimillionaire property investor. So the property investing is something she's good at. She enjoys on a day-to-day basis. But what it does is it fuels the finances for her passion, which is the orphanage in Peru.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yeah, good example.
So what's your word of the week then?
It's opposite.
Oh.
I was reminded yesterday that there are two sides to every coin. It was that point earlier about being contrary. And for every opinion and thought that I have and hold, someone else thinks the opposite. Now, the thing about that is that on social media and so forth, it would be very easy to be cowed and fearful about expressing one's own views. Because somebody else always jumps in and disagrees with you or whatever. But I think it's worth remembering that, a bit like I was saying earlier, the clients come in an infinite variety. The way I see the world is unique to me, and it isn't necessarily a match for everybody else. So there's two sides to every coin, and that's the beauty of it, and the annoying thing sometimes.
Yeah. What was it? There was quite good. Was it you that put the thing on that said something along the lines of, every time I see someone, no, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter who it was. It said every time I see something negative on social media, I think that's your truth. That maybe
yes, it was me. Yes, it was me. There was some variation of that yesterday. Yes, I shared it. It wasn't my idea. It was somebody else's. That's absolutely right. That's your truth. Yeah.
You can and then that just helps you to move on and not necessarily engage in the argument.
Yeah, I think we need to appreciate that there's more than one way of looking at everything, and I think that's quite useful. I mean, I find myself saying in blog posts quite often, the opposite is also true. I mean, it's amazing that both sides of a coin can be true, but they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my word of the week is opposite. No, it's not. That was your word of the week.
I was going to say, that's a coincidence, isn't it? Because that's mine.
I've been very diligent and making notes today, because you know how I often have to go back to you and say, what was your word of the week? No, my word of the week is cobbled.
Oh.
And that's because of my dilemma about the membership site, because I've been trying to cobble together, and also I had a very good conversation with a client on our mastermind call, which I added back in yesterday because I was feeling a bit lonely. So what this person was doing, she'd invested in Infusionsoft and she wasn't really getting on with it very well. I think she got some sort of deal where she didn't get the usual coaching stroke implementation package. So it was a good deal, but it wasn't that good because it hadn't helped her move forward with it. She outlined what she wanted to do, and she was talking about going back to AWeber, which I knew was, is a bit clunky. It doesn't, say for example you've got a prospect list and someone buys, there is a way to move people from the prospect list to the new customer list, but it isn't 100% foolproof. You always have to go and check. So I was, whereas Infusionsoft does all that stuff seamlessly. So, and the other thing Infusionsoft does that she really wants to do is behavior-based marketing. So if someone clicks this, they get put onto this autoresponder sequence, and the only thing that stops that autoresponder sequence is a purchase. If they don't click that, then they go on to the next thing that you want to talk to them about. And AWeber is never going to be able to do that in a million years, even though there is AWeber Pro Tools, which is another bit of software that bolts onto it. But, so basically she was trying to cobble together a not very good solution to save something like £50 a month. And we've talked about this before, haven't we? People not being willing to invest in the proper tools. And what this client was doing, and actually we've got an Infusionsoft session later on because I couldn't bear it. And so to save £100 a month, she's and I've also witnessed this with the VAT mess thing. I've got one client who sells ebooks, and because he's literally spent the last 6 months trying to sort out the VAT thing, even though he only sells about 4 copies of the ebook a month to EU countries. So he could have just switched off the EU sales and he would have been 4 copies a month down, instead of which he ended up going with a solution that doesn't actually work and ends up not talking to AWeber, his email host. And he's actually halved his sales for the last 6 months because he's been trying to fix this with a cobbled together solution, instead of going to the best of breed solution, which would have been slightly more expensive. So he's halved his sales for 6 months. He's taken up so much of his time that could have been used in opportunity cost. He could have written another book in that time. So my word of the week is cobbled, because it's a big temptation to cobble things together. And actually, I'm a bootstrapper. I love cobbling things together until you get to the point where you can afford the right solutions. But, just be aware of what you're giving up in terms of time, opportunity cost, and grief.
I think it's about looking. That story is about looking in the wrong direction, and a lot of people got hung up on that VAT thing. I remember discussing it with you before Christmas, in which I said we just, entrepreneurs look for the workaround. We don't look for, how can I keep trading? That's what we look for. We don't look for, how can I be compliant?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the easy thing was to just put an element of human intervention into it, but
Quite.
But some clients just.
Well, I liked your one of turn off the EU sales and lose four books a month. Actually,
well, yeah. Instead of which he'd lost half his sales, which was something like 15 a month.
Yeah, I know.
And then I had to tweet the chairman of the company. He was waiting for Fast Spring, who apparently do look after the VAT thing quite well, but they don't integrate with Aweber, so he had no email follow up at all. To deliver the book once the person had bought it. And I had to tweet the CEO, because he was sitting patiently waiting for this company to come back to him and say when they were going to integrate with Aweber. I said, look, come on, this is an IKEA bed situation. Get on Twitter and shame the man into replying.
Yes.
Find out. Again, because entrepreneurs don't wait for other people to keep move their business forward.
No, you nudged us on that topic a few weeks ago. Actually, yes, patience was your word that week. Don't be patient. Move on.
Yeah, be unreasonably impatient, because this is your business.
Yes.
This is your.
There's an advert on the telly for a supermarket, and I forget which one it is, but the slogan is "Be more demanding."
I haven't seen that one. It's probably one of the supermarkets we'll never go to.
I don't think it is, actually, but it doesn't matter. Be more demanding.
All right, I will. So who or what's impressed then?
Well, this is going to shock you, I think, Nicola. It's people who knock door to door.
Oh.
And who have the chutzpah to ring my entry phone, because, of course, nobody gets past my gatekeeper, which is me. And they're selling, religion. They're canvassing for the election. They're wanting to convert me to something or involve me in something. They're cold calling. They're ringing an entry phone. How brave or desperate are they? I mean, what a way to earn a living. I can't believe people still do that in this day and age. But I started a debate about it on Facebook yesterday, because twice this week, somebody's rung the doorbell. One was a neighbour wanting a chat when I was in the middle of a 90-minute Skype conference with my client, so I couldn't do it. And then what was the next day? Oh, yesterday was somebody selling religion. And I opened this debate on Facebook. Who rings your doorbell, and is it nice? And the majority of the responses were, no, it's not nice, and I don't answer the door, and then if you haven't got an appointment, you're not getting in here. And then I realised actually we were manifesting nasty things, because a couple of people who replied says, yes, I always answer the door with excitement, and often it's fun, and sometimes I invite the Jehovah's in and they play the piano. This is Wendy, who I know will be listening to this. If you expect well, the point here is if you expect good things, you're more likely to receive them. But my point is not really who's on the other side, but the bravery of people who, to sell their mission or to sell their product or to sell their candidate in the general election, are knocking door to door, because God knows they must be on the receiving end of a lot of, I mean, I'm quite polite, but they must receive, I mean, really, I say not for me or not today, thank you, and put the entry phone down, which is, at least they know where they are. But I think, God, they're brave.
I have, on occasion, bought some very overpriced tea towels from the people.
Yes, somebody said that on my Facebook posting. Yes,
because I feel so sorry for them having to make a living like that. It's just
I know. I mean, obviously, going back 80 years or something, when people started to sell, was it Hoovers and Sunlight?
Oh yeah, Ziegler was a door-to-door seller.
That's it. I mean, I think obviously I'm not against door-to-door selling in a funny sort of a thing. I think my point was, if you work at home and you know, a lot of us do, but the majority of us don't. So the people who go to work have no idea how many times the doorbell rings in the daytime with somebody trying to sell you a tea towel or an ironing board cover or something that you don't want, and you've got to interrupt what you're doing and going on to the door, blah, blah, blah. But I think I just thought yesterday, I had a funny day yesterday. Do you see where I could see every other side of every other coin? Instead of them being a nuisance, I suddenly thought, oh, you poor sausages that have got to go.
Yeah.
You've chosen to do that. I mean, it is a baptism of fire. It probably, a bit like national service, it would be good for all of us to do a month, because boy, would it toughen you up.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit like cleaning car windows at cross things. That would do it as well, wouldn't it? It's astonishing, really. Well, you're going to love my who or what's impressed. Okay, so you know I'm obsessed with software and systems at the moment. We've got this we've got this online accounting package called Xero, Xero. Lots of X's in my life at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's highly I heard about it on podcasts in Australia. It started in Australia. It's now in the UK as well. It's really, really good software, but it's online, so your accountant can access it where he is. And my brother-in-law to-be, not that he knows that yet, is going to be my accountant, and he's very good, and he's very keen to learn it because he realises it's the future. And then we were looking for who could, but the big challenge was it hooks up to your bank, so you've got a live feed from your bank, so you can reconcile your stuff online. It integrates with lots of other things, but we hadn't really investigated that. But the thing that was worrying me was I have a handful of real receipts every month, and then but the majority of the stuff I buy is for small amounts of money. It comes in with an email receipt, and I didn't quite know what to do about that, whether to give my VA my entire email address so that she could then wade through everything to find the receipts once a week and then put them into Xero. And it was getting a bit laborious thinking about what to do about the receipts and the invoices. And then Sarah did a bit of investigating yesterday, and she came up with this thing called Receipt Bank. Have you heard of it?
No.
Oh God, it's awesome. Basically, you sign up for it. It's about £7 a month, and you can either email your receipts in, you can mail them in, you can scan them and send them in, or you can download the app on your phone and take pictures of your receipts. And they go immediately into your Xero, because Receipt Bank integrates with Xero.
Oh, nice.
So your receipts go straight in, and your bookkeeper or accountant or VA can then reconcile each receipt to each entry in your bank and make sure it's all right, and get the VAT element, which has already been processed out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool, isn't
it? That is quite cool, yes.
Yeah, I had an hour of pure pleasure photographing receipts yesterday. You have to get them in a very good light with a plain background, but it worked beautifully. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. There you go, receiptbank.com.
Okay, lovely.
Receipt-bank.com.
I love the way you said, I'm very interested in software and systems at the moment. Nicola, you've always been interested in those. What are you talking about?
I know, but it's got worse in the last couple of weeks.
If that were possible.
Well, the interesting thing about the Receipt Bank Xero thing was that it took someone else to go and look for this solution, because I'm still a bit of a dinosaur. I don't imagine that these amazing solutions are out there.
Yeah,
it's a bit like when people say, "How do you do that?" and you go Google it.
Yes.
You can Google the solution to anything. It's a bit like software. And the way different softwares talk to each other is just astonishing.
Marion calls Google my old mate. She says, when people say, ask questions like that, she goes, if only there was somewhere you could go, you could find out the answer to everything.
And there is.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, there you go. A short but sweet week this week. Marvellous.
Episode 22, I think
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Marvellous.
Nice. And we're back in the top 120 of, we're in What's Hot now, having slipped out.
Well, I'm hoping you're going to show me that in a moment.
Oh, okay. Well, I will do that immediately. And
Marvellous.
Say goodbye to our listeners. Bye.
Yes, bye listeners. See you next week.
Yeah, bye. You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.